Welcome to Stories with Brisco and Bradshaw. I would be Bradshaw. That would be the Chickasaw native, Chickasaw Hall of Famer, Mr. Gerald Brisco. We have got a treat today. From 1982 to 2007, this man ran the roughshod over the NFL. 3 Super Bowl championships. He was in the comeback with Jim Kelly. He was an official, Mr. Gerald Austin. Mr. Austin, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much. But for that comeback game, Kelly was injured, and it was Frank Wright.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Frank just got named a head coach somewhere too, right?
Panthers.
Carolina, yes, sir.
Yeah, Carolina Panthers.
Where are you living now, Joe?
Where am I? What?
Yeah, where do you live now?
I live right outside Greensboro, North Carolina.
Oh, great place, great place. I had a lot of great memories in Greensboro, North Carolina. When you were growing up, did you ever watch Jim Crockett promotions or any of that stuff?
I don't think so.
You was all into that football and basketball back in your day, right?
Yeah.
Well, wonderful. We're going to get it kicked off here. As John mentioned, one of the, we're seeing all these great comebacks in the NFL this year, in the playoffs especially. There's been a couple of teams make these tremendous comebacks, but you're involved in one of the most historical comeback of all time at Buffalo with Frank Wright, the quarterback, John, not Jim.
That's
Kelly.
right.
Jim
That's
Kelly
right.
Was hurt, and it was one of your team to Houston. Was it the Oilers?
It broke my heart. Yeah, I'm from Texas, and I love the Houston Oilers and love you blue. Earl Campbell, Bum Phillips, and that broke my heart.
Yeah. I'm trying to think who the coach was at the time. It wasn't Phillips.
It wasn't Bum?
Who?
Bum. It wasn't Bum Phillips, right? Was Glanville down there then?
No. It was he played for the Redskins.
Jorgensen.
It'll
come to me in a minute.
Yeah.
But on that there, Gerald, as the game's going along, and it just seemed like a runaway game, and then all of a sudden that momentum started shifting there. As an official, can you feel that vibration? Can you feel that momentum with the teams, and how does that feel on the field, and what kind of vibes were coming from the crowds there?
Well, I can tell you at halftime it was 35-3 or 32-3. 35-3 is 32-point difference at halftime. And Jack Pardue was the coach.
There we go.
And so I talked to the crew in a locker room. I said, let's keep everything under control, keep the game moving. Let's get it over, because it's pretty much over right then. And so we're talking about getting it over. So we go out there, and the first score of the second half, Houston kicks a field goal and makes it 38-3. 35-point difference, I believe, is correct. I'd have to go back and check it for sure, but I know they kicked a field goal. That was the first score. Excuse me. And so they kick off to the Bills, and the Bills take it right down the field and score. And then they kick off, and the kicker misses the ball. Well, he doesn't hit the ball the way he's intended. He is swinging his leg to put it in the end zone, but it bounces, and the Houston's backing up already. So the Bills recover the ball, and then they go down and score again. So
it was an onside kick, accidentally an onside kick then.
That's correct. The onside kick with the receivers backing up and not staying up there to play the ball. But neither were the Bills ready to play the ball because they were sprinting down the field. The kicker recovered the ball at about 14, 15 yards beyond the spot where he kicked it. Well, anyway, they scored. And then you start thinking, well, is this leading up to anything? Well, it did, because the Houston didn't score again, and as you know, uh, the Bills tied it at 38-38, and then
What was your attitude on the field at that time as an official? Could you feel that? Can you feel momentum when it starts shifting? How does that go?
well, after the second score, you can feel the momentum. You see two things. You see excitement on the Bills sideline, and you can see over on the Oilers sideline, they're saying, "Come on, let's get it under control. Let's don't let this get away from us." I heard someone say that. Let's don't let this get away from us. And Warren Moon was a quarterback for Houston, and he had been very, very successful. So in the overtime, the Oilers won the toss and chose the ball, and the Bills kick off to them. They made one first down, I believe, and then they throw a pass to Hayward over the middle. Hayward runs about 3 or 4 yards, gets hit and fumbles the ball, and the Bills recover. And the Bills make a first down to get in field goal range and kick a field goal, and the game's over.
Well, now back then, explain to our fans here, the rules were completely different back in those days. There, you just got the team that got the ball more or less would win in overtime because all you had to do was score some type of score, whether field goal, touchdown, or safety or something like that, right?
I believe that's right. All you had to do was score. Whoever scored first, game was over. This was before they said the other team had to have a chance, but circumstances were both teams had a chance to score. They had a possession of the ball. So that's how that one went.
How do you feel about that rule change? Do you think that's the right thing now? I on my part, I like the way the overtime goes out.
I'd do one more thing to it. It says if the team at first gains possession scores a touchdown, it's over. I would say both teams should be entitled to a possession. And if the opponent scores a touchdown in their first possession before I have a chance to have possession of the ball, then I should get the opportunity to tie the score. And that would be the only way I would change that.
I agree. I agree with you there. But before this great comeback happened, there you're a Carolina boy. You come up in the mountains of North Carolina there, and we have mutual friends, Mr. Murdoch, that's a wonderful guy with charities up in the Asheville area there. You were at Western Carolina. Is that where you attended college? And was you an athlete at Western Carolina?
No, I was already officiating when I was at Western. Wow. And Jim Gudger was a basketball coach. So I helped out with the basketball team with Gudger. And then I officiated the freshman game. They paid just $3 a game to officiate their game.
Wow.
But I'd put the
that was
the
big money for
through.
A college boy, right?
Yeah, that was good money. Yeah. Any money was good money.
Yeah. So you became an ACC official. Is that your first big conference that you earned your officiating badge by?
Yeah, I did ACC football
who were some
and
of the, who were some of the stars in the basketball league back in the ACC? Because it was loaded with top flight basketball players.
Well, David Thompson, Phil Ford, Mike Jaminski for Duke. Trying to think.
When you said Thompson, now he's a part of that Fab Five that won the NC State national title. Was that the year you started?
No, I started the year before that.
Year before that.
When David was a freshman.
Right.
And freshmen couldn't play varsity.
Right. Yeah.
So if you worked a game at NC State, a freshman game, it'd be a full house for the freshman game, just to watch David Thompson play.
Wow.
What a
Kind
scorer he was. What a scorer. So you started the year before that. So that year, North Carolina State really, Jim Valvano's big year that year. What kind of interaction did you have with Coach V there? What a wonderful person. I had the pleasure of meeting him of all places, a bathroom at Charlotte, North Carolina Airport one day.
Well, during David Thompson's time, it was Norm Sloan.
Norm Sloan, okay.
Yeah, and he was his wonderful personal self. And anybody ever officiated would say the same thing.
Yeah. Norm was a wonderful guy too. I don't know if you ever met Joe Murnick, who was a promoter there in Raleigh. Joe was a big supporter of Norm and also of over Dean over Carolina there. So
yeah, no, I didn't know him. I don't know that I ever met him, but I developed a great relationship with Eddie Beatenbach.
Right.
And as a matter of fact, I taught school where Roy Williams went to high school. So, and he talks about going to the elementary school gym, Biltmore School. My first teaching job was at Biltmore. And Roy used to climb through the window so they could go in there and play basketball late at night.
That sounds familiar. A lot of athletes. I know we used to sneak in our old gym out in Oklahoma at nighttime, so we get on those wrestling mats and practice wrestling all night long without the coaches hollering at us.
Yeah, you could do it for fun.
Yeah, and but Norm and those guys. Roy Williams, my wife went to Carolina. She was at Carolina same year Roy was, and had a couple of classes with Roy. And then she said, "What a great gentleman he was way back in those days there." So
yeah, he was that way from the time I knew him, from 12 years old on up. He was always been a gentleman, a scholar too. He I think finished the top of his high school class.
Also at Carolina at the football, were you refereeing both sports, football and basketball in the ACC back in those days?
Yes, I was.
There were a lot of great stars. Was that during the Lawrence Taylor era at Carolina? Or was that after?
Lawrence was a little ahead of me, so I didn't have Lawrence Taylor as a player, but
as a college player anyway.
Yeah, Bill Dooley was coaching during most of the time that I was in the ACC at Carolina, and then he left there and went to Virginia Tech.
Did you like you refereed a lot of these stars in football after you got into the NFL, and when you run into them, was it kind of like a flashback, good memories with these guys? Did you form any type of friendship with them, or what was that?
No, I always had a good relationship with the players. I always thought, as philosophically with players, sometimes you see a player say something, you see an official throw a flag. My philosophy was I'd rather snarl at them and holler at them instead of flagging them. And usually you got more respect from the players. Player makes some caustic remark at you or you're officiating. And then I said, what are you trying to do? Put me in a position where first I'm going to throw a flag, and if I throw a flag on you, I'm going to kick you out of the game. So you decide what you want to do. And usually we get settled down. And
that's a question I was going to ask you too. Some of these players nowadays, you see these players and also the coaches, they really get these referees' faces and really start chewing them. where's it cross the border nowadays? You know, where hey, that's a flag, coach. I can't handle that. You know, you're out of here, or that's a penalty on your team.
Well,
how do you handle those coaches get screaming at Slava coming out? It's almost like Sergeant Slaughter cutting a promo, and he's hollering at you, and he got Slava coming out all over.
oh, you're talking about Bill Cowher. Nobody,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
nobody threw
that's
more
it.
Slava than he did. I know one time he didn't like a call we had made, and so he wants me to come over and talk to him. So we got a timeout, and I go over there, and he just starts in on me, and that Slava's going everywhere, and I'm backing up, and he takes another step forward, and I'm backing up. We end up, by the time the timeout was over, beyond the numbers, toward the middle of the field. And I said to him, I said, Bill, you see where you are? He said, oh, shucks, except he used a different word. And he headed back to the sideline.
Did you ever have any like really funny interaction with players? Were some players more fun to deal with? Obviously, some players more fun to deal with, but some really fun interactions with some of these great players?
Most players, you know, you could have good interaction with. I spent more interaction as a referee with quarterbacks and defensive ends than I did anybody else. I know one time when Bruce Smith was playing for the Redskins, and he's saying, Jerry, they're holding me on every play. And I said, Bruce, let's get one thing straight. If you don't want to be held, there's not a lineman in this league that can hold you. I said, it's just a matter of you going through that lineman or he takes you to the ground. He says, if he takes me to a ground, is that a foul? I said, yes, it is. On the next play, Bruce bull rushes and the guy grabs him and Bruce takes him to the ground. Well, we're in a game that it's not even close. So I throw a flag. And I throw a flag and Bruce looks up and I said, well, he took you to the ground, or did you take him to the ground? I said, we got holding. And he says, about time. I said, but listen, Bruce, this is the only flag you're getting all year.
So you flew a complimentary flag for Bruce Smith.
Yeah. Yeah, we're late in the game and the Redskins were up by 4 touchdowns. So, yeah.
So there are spots in the game where you get a little bit looser, or is that what the deal is on that?
When the game is out of control and you're in the fourth quarter, you want it to be huge. And you say that to your crew. Everybody knows. They don't adhere to that as much nowadays, but in the past, even the league office would tell you, make sure fouls are really big when a game is 4 scores or more in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, you see a lot of fouls nowadays. You know, as fans, we sit back. We really don't know the rules and regulations like the referees do out there, of course. But you see some fouls nowadays, and you know, you hit on a little bit earlier where Bruce told you they're holding me every play. You know, that old fan philosophy. You know, there's a penalty every play that you can call. I've sat next to a couple of referees on airplanes leaving Tampa here, you know, the next day after a game, and they pull out their little iPads now and they show me on the iPad, well, which play did you think was a foul? Well, this and this, and they'll pull it up. They'll run through a position by position. There wasn't a foul on that play. You know, the referee was right, you know. But is there close to being a foul on every play?
I don't think so. I think what you should be looking for, and one thing, the 20 years I was a coordinator, Conference USA, I always said the call should make itself. If an official, you see a play you think is a foul, you say, it's a foul, now throw. If you say it's a foul, well, I'm not sure, keep it in your pocket. Don't be looking for fouls, but when it's there, have the courage to throw and call it. So what's a foul? Something that restricts an opponent from being able to do what he's supposed to do that's not legal. Because blockers are restricting opponents. But if the defensive end beats the tackle's feet, then the tackle's pretty much got to let him go or push him right on past the quarterback. And that's something you don't see too much of anymore, is that being the guideline for holding. Because I see some offensive holding calls that, in my opinion, that are kind of borderline. And if it's borderline, let it go. You can always step up to the player. I saw what you did on the last play. You might want to get your hands in a little quicker. And that way, I know our crew, the last 4 years, we didn't average more than 10 fouls per game. And you see some crews averaging 26, 27 fouls per game. And
when you see that, what's that tell you, that they're being overly critical to the players, or what's that tell you when you see 20, 25 fouls a game?
I think they're looking for something when they let the game flow. Be the manager of the game, let the game flow. And if it's foul, if you can meet the criteria of a foul, then call it.
Mr. Austin, what when you see a foul, like I say, a holding call that's on the backside, that doesn't affect the play, but it is definitely a hold, is that always called? Is there do you have some type of judgment for yourself that this has not affected the play, so you talk to the player instead of throwing a flag?
I think all your good officials do that. If it's a backside hole, you got a sweep right and a backside hole on the left side, then the official has responsibility for backside coverage, should go to that player and say, hey, it's a good thing the play didn't come this way. And you're not telling him, I'll let you have a foul. You just tell him it's a good thing the play didn't come this way. He understands what you're talking about. Because really, what's the job of officiating? Is to manage the ball game. Spot the ball, wind the clock, keep the game moving. And if there's something there, true restriction, then make the call.
What's the biggest thing you've seen change in the game? I mean, obviously so much more for safety, but as far as the game flow itself, what's the biggest thing you've seen change since you started back in the 80s when, people there weren't just a lot of rules being called back then. There were a lot of hits that were being called back then. Now they're illegal. They weren't back then.
Oh, that's true. They were not illegal. It's Deacon Jones. You can look at any of Deacon Jones's video. He was before my time. But how many swats did he hit to tackles that are trying to block him? And then when he got to the quarterback, he'd take your head off. If he wasn't late, it wasn't a foul. Right now, it'd be disqualified.
Do you think it's a good thing that the rules have taken, of course, for protection of the quarterback? He's the star of the game, but do you think it's gone? Sometimes it goes overboard with trying to protect that quarterback back there.
How many quarterbacks play all 17 games?
Not a lot.
Not a lot. So I don't think they're being overly protected. They're very vulnerable. Quarterback's vulnerable. He can't brace for anything coming because he's concentrating on the receiver that he's throwing the ball to. And so I think they're protecting the quarterback the way they should. Now
they always go quarterbacks like Billy Kilmer and Sonny Jurgensen and Y.A. Tittle and some of those guys. Man, they seem to just relish the hit and seem to get fired up over it. Nowadays, it seems like there's a lot of pouting going on. A lot of fun.
Well, I know some of the earlier quarterbacks kind of if you really talk to them, they say, "I wish we had those rules when I was playing."
Yeah, as they're getting to picking up their canes, they're walking away.
Was there
Right.
any difference that you weigh? I know it's just human nature. I know it's not supposed to be, but did you treat Lawrence Taylor and Joe Montana any different than say the regular player that's just on the 45-man roster that was just kind of playing day by day?
No, I don't think so. I think you program in your mind and in your head as to uh, what you're going to call and what you don't call. So it doesn't matter who the participant is. Are they meeting my guidelines or not? And you can say the league has guidelines for every play, every type of play, and every all the players, but every official has their own internal guidelines that they follow. And so you're not going to give somebody more than you do another, because then you won't know this week what am I doing based on last week. And you want to develop that consistency. You know, that's the one thing coaches say all the time. Just be consistent. Be consistent. And like Jerry Glanville told me one time, he says, "You're really consistent in this game." I said, "Thank you, coach." And I said, "Thank you, coach." And Jerry said, "Yeah, you're consistently wrong."
I was just going to say he had one of the greatest coaching personalities in my history, my memory of any coaches. Were there the coaches like that? A lot of fun. Some of them would be real comical to you and try to ease the tension on the field. And is there a lot of tension out there on the field?
Yeah, that you had some coaches. As soon as the game started, they were a wild man until the game was over. When the game started, Jerry was a comedian until the game was over. He could be serious. I mean, when there's a tough situation, he'd address it seriously. But other times, he'd have a comical thing to say.
I always liked when he kept tickets there at the box office. Will call for Elvis Presley all the time.
Every game.
Every game.
I heard that in the Big Sky Conference when he was at Portland State, he even left them there.
That's great. It's great.
Well, there was a report that he was out in Portland working at a Burger King or a McDonald's or something like that.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. Jerry was a character. He got involved a little bit in our business a little bit, and I had the opportunity running into him a couple of times. And he would, a completely different personality on the wrestling end, but what a hilarious guy when he's just trying to be offbeat a little bit. I enjoyed his company.
Yeah, he was, and you take some coaches, every call's wrong that's against his team. Then you have other coaches that if they question a call, Bill Parcells.
Yeah.
Bill never questioned a call, but if he questioned one, then when you look at the video, he's right and you're wrong.
Wow. Were there a lot of coaches like that, really cerebral, that knew the rules better than you, or thought they knew them better than you?
Well, I think a lot of them thought they knew him better than I did, but
Joe Gibbsford, he seems like one of these guys that's really astute and just really has everything under control at all times. How was he to work with on the field?
He was okay to work with on the field. Time to time he could get caustic, but more times than not, he was just taking care of business. He's doing his job and letting us do ours.
Mr. Austin, you worked with some of the greatest players, obviously, of all time, in 25 years, from 82 to 2007. But you had Montana, you had Brett Favre, Jim Kelly, you had in Super Bowls. What was the difference between those guys? And did one stand out more so than the others? And as compared to the regular quarterbacks that were out there?
Well, you see some quarterbacks that know they're going to get hit. You can kind of see their body tense up. Joe Montana is not a big person. He's not a big stature and big muscular person. But he seemed to be so zeroed in on what he was doing and what his job was. I've seen him take hits that I couldn't understand how he got up off the ground. But he hung in there till the very last second to complete the play. And you're great quarterbacks, they do that. Brett Favre, he would throw 5 interceptions, but he told me one time, we were at a camp together. He told me one time, I said, when you throw 5 interceptions, what's your thoughts? I'm going to throw 5 touchdowns. He just felt like he would overcome whatever went bad. And I think that's the way the good quarterbacks are.
That must be that Joe Burrow's philosophy too. He goes out, throws 4 interceptions first half, then comes back and throws 4 touchdowns the second half.
Well, that's true. And the guy in Jacksonville.
Yeah. Lawrence. Yeah. Lawrence.
Yeah. He did the same thing.
So
Bill Belichick
amazing.
said that Lawrence Taylor was the greatest player that he ever coached, and he coached Tom Brady. Was Lawrence Taylor the best player you ever saw, and if he wasn't, who was?
He was the best defensive player I ever saw. Best player, it'd be hard to say that Jerry Rice wasn't the best overall player.
Right.
We all know how great Tom Brady was. The great career he's had. I think it'd be difficult to single out a single person as the overall GOAT.
That's almost when people ask us who is the greatest wrestler of all time. It's really hard to kind of, pertaining to what, because there's so many different aspects of the game there that you officiate, that makes them great at one area of the game. But a lot of them, like Montana and Jerry Rice, as you said, guys were players and good people on top of it. Is there any intimidation, like, a rookie referee coming in, all of a sudden he's looking at Tom Brady? Is there ever any, have you ever run in your crews, or you ever run across any intimidation that a referee has to kind of gunshot to call a penalty on one of these superstars?
I don't think so. And if they did, they didn't last.
They didn't last.
They didn't last.
Yeah.
I think you come in and you get zeroed in on what your job is, and you try to stay in that zone for the entire 60 minutes of game.
They're basic position players and numbered when you're out there in your mindset then, right?
Yeah. You know who's lined up if you're a deep wing official. You know when Jerry Rice is on your side and he's coming deep, because initially I was a deep official, and you would know Jerry Rice would he's going to beat that defender. So how does that defender going to keep from getting beat? He's going to grab.
Hold anything good.
Yeah, and you look for that. And because he not only could he beat him deep, he beat him with the routes that he ran. Steve Largent, maybe the slowest receiver around, but he ran the most precise routes. So the quarterback always knew where he was. That's why he had all those receptions over the years without physically being the best at that. But he was one heck of a receiver.
To be a successful referee at your level, is there a lot of studying that goes on with individual players? Do you look at individual? Do you study individual players? And when you have a big game, say the Super Bowl coming up, do you guys sit down and you kind of review who we got playing, or is it just a massive team out there that you're looking to call?
Well, you do study what the two teams. You're going to have video of the two teams and what their approach is, both offensively and defensively. If I'm the referee and I'm protecting a quarterback, and I know this defensive team blitzes a lot, then I got to be aware of the protection this quarterback has. Aware in, does that blocker grab whenever you see a center and a right guard double teaming the best tackle on that team, and here comes the middle linebacker up the middle. Now, what's going to stop him? That running back blocking? I don't think so. That running back tackling him? I think so.
You probably saw a lot of that when Lawrence Taylor was blitzing those quarterbacks, that running back tackling.
No, they didn't have. I don't think a running back could tackle him.
They not even tackle.
Did you have certain guys like Conrad Dobler was famous for the leg whip? They've outlawed it since and all that. But you have certain guys that you would look at on film and think, okay, and maybe talk to them before the game, or at least look out for them during the game?
No, I think you look out for your guidelines. You look out. What's your guidelines? And is it going to be violated or not? Sure, you got Conrad Dobler that's been known to grab, hold, and trip. He built that reputation without me saying anything about it. So, but if you're going into each game, you're going to give him the opportunity to play that game the way it should be played. And if he's better than his defender, he won't have to do any of those things. So that's who's lining up against who. And I think that has more to do with it than anything.
Did the league ever have directives for the season? Like, so we've had too much pass interference. We want to open up the game a little more. So the league at the beginning of the season tell you guys, please watch this because for this reason.
Well, the only thing I can remember is, illegal contact. Defender can contact an eligible receiver within 5 yards of a line of scrimmage, and we always tried to let it go till 6 or 7. And I remember one year passing was down, and so they said we're going to enforce illegal contact. If it's a half a yard beyond 5 yards, it's a foul. And so they tightened down something like that.
Who were your favorite quarterbacks to work with? Or your favorite defensive players? Because you worked a lot in the backfield, so you worked with the defensive ends and the quarterback. So who are your favorite guys to work with? And was there ever a time where you thought, I don't want to really become friends with these guys because I've also got to be objective to them? Or did that not seem to matter?
I don't think that mattered. And, I don't know that anybody was a favorite now. Brad Johnson would want me to say that he was my favorite quarterback.
We had
He's
Brad
a great
on
character,
the show, and
isn't
he said you were his favorite referee. So. Was a little mountain cooking going on there.
There you go. Yeah. I've looked at those video he's done about throwing that football and hitting the goalpost.
Yeah.
Those are the best, aren't they? Big Bad Brad.
Big Bad Brad. I wanted to say to him, why couldn't you hit the receivers? But
yeah. Did
I'll save that for the golf outing.
Did you officiate any of his high school games when he was growing up?
No. His high school career was after I was in college football.
What's the biggest difference, at least then or now, that between college and pro football games?
The pace of play is the biggest difference. Even if a pro team goes no huddle, they're going to eat up 20 seconds of the 40-second play clock. And in college, you get some teams that they won't eat up 10 seconds between one play and another. The only thing that slows them down is they substitute, and so the officials have to hold up a game until the defenders have opportunity to make replacements. But in a college game, you'll get over 200 plays a game, and pros you're about 175. So the pace of play is the biggest difference. Now you get.
I'm sorry. Doesn't that wear you guys out?
Not really, because we're not doing any more than we did. We might do a little bit quicker, but not any more than we did.
What kind of conditioning do you guys do? Do you train for a season? Do you get in shape for a season? You obviously have to keep up with you. Sometimes you're running down the field, and you guys are heel to heel with the receivers that's running a 4.40. I know you're not that fast, Jerry.
No, I'm not even half that fast. But no, I worked out every other day. I worked out 3 days a week, and then I work out on Saturday at wherever we're having the game, and then you got on Sunday you got the ball game.
Right.
They put pedometers on us and found that we'd go about 7 miles a game.
Wow. 7 miles. Wow. Do you lose a lot of weight? Do you lose a lot of?
No, I pretty much stayed the same weight the whole year. I tried to stay.
When you condition and you work out a lot, you drop a lot of water weight and everything. I know that's for fleshy guys like me and John. Anyway.
Yeah, you work on your conditioning. Try to do it year round, because if you say I'm waiting until the season starts, you don't get caught up until the first month of the season's over.
And then you're doing an August game down in Miami or Tampa, and that heat and that humidity. That's kind of.
Well, that's true.
Did weather ever affect you on games? Because you're 1 week you're down in Miami, next week you're up in New England and freezing, some below zero temperature. Then the next week you're LA and beautiful weather. Did the weather ever affect your tempo of the game?
Cold weather affected me. I hate cold weather.
And you grow up in it.
I grew up in it in the mountains, but as older I've gotten, the less tolerance I have for cold weather.
Amen. I believe it.
But I know I had a game in Tampa one year, and it was extremely hot in Tampa. The Eagles were playing there, and I know we started the game, and I kept telling everybody on Saturday in our pregame meeting, you need to start right now in hydrating. You got to hydrate. You can't wait till game time to hydrate. You got to start now to hydrate. So we'd start hydrating on Saturday. But we get in this ball game, and the quarterback comes out for Philly. He comes out and he's under center, and he steps over behind the left guard and vomits. There it is. Left guard's not happy because he got to step back and block in that. But it was that hot, and by the time we got to the fourth quarter, I thought we was going to lose a couple of officials. And then it appeared we were going to overtime, and Tampa kicked a 62-yard field goal to win the game in the last 3 seconds of the game.
Wow.
I later told Gruden I'd never been so happy to see him win a game.
Well, Johnny, of course, I'm a Tampa here, and I'm a big Gruden fan. How was he to officiate? Because he's one of those high-tempered guys that runs his mouth and enjoys running his mouth a lot.
Well, I can tell you about one time we have a pass play over the middle, and receiver gets the ball, starts to turn, gets hit, the ball comes out, we rule it incomplete, and the Buccaneers fall on it, but we're ruling it incomplete. John throws a red flag. I go over there. I said, "What you got, Coach?" He said, "I'm challenging the call. That should be our ball." And I start to head, so I turn around and make the announcement. Tampa's challenging the call on the field of an incomplete pass. I make the announcement, and then he says, "I don't know why in the hell I'm challenging this because I've never won a challenge with you." But
Did he win that one?
huh? No, he didn't.
That's great. years past, NFL referees always seem to have other jobs, unlike baseball where you had full-time referees. I mean, this is the most profitable league in the world by far. Do you think that the NFL should have changed that a while back, where these guys would just work exclusively and just be full-time referees?
What are you going to do during the week? You can only look at your game film so much. Now, I know a couple of people over the years that the demands of their civilian job was so much that it affected their officiating. And I think that's where the league has to say to them, we need we need your head in our game, not your head in your other job. But for me, even being in education, being an administrator, when I left home on Saturday morning, I didn't think of anything but football. And if I'd gotten a call that one of our schools was burning down, I would make sure everybody's safe, but I'd still be concentrating on football.
Right. When you look at football today, we got a big Super Bowl coming up this weekend. What do you think of the officiating? What do you think about the rules? How do you think the game's changed? How do you like it?
I'm one of those that when they brought replay back, that if we can get the call right, let's get it right. And so replay is a part of the game. Now it's a part of every sport, and it's been beneficial. You see fewer baseball managers getting ejected because replay either proves them right or wrong. And so I think that the officials today have more demands on them than what we had. I can remember before Marino was drafted in Miami, Don Shula didn't throw 20 passes a game. And there were a number of other coaches didn't. So the game was narrowed down. Then even after we get the passing quarterbacks in the league, they're not rollout quarterbacks. They're pocket quarterbacks. But now you get quarterbacks like Mahomes and Joe Burrows. He rolls out. More than half the quarterbacks roll out or do play action plays. Play action puts more on the officials because there's more things that can happen in a play. It's not hand off the ball and Jim Kick goes up the middle for 5 or 6 yards, or Larry Zonka. Just use a couple of old time examples. So I think they have a tougher job to do, better trained to do it. They have the video availability to do the job, and there's been some turnover in the white hats, and so they got to mature to the level where the older officials got to after 10 years of being a white hat. Officiating's they had a couple of things in the championship game that got a lot of attention, but with the video that's available nowadays, you're going to have a lot of attention.
Well, one of the biggest attentions was the shove out of Mahomes that gave Kansas City the yardage to get that field goal done.
You didn't have a choice on that.
I agree with that. I agree wholeheartedly with that call.
Yeah, it's got to be made, and they made it. There were a couple of plays in the other championship game that I thought maybe was a little technical, but under my philosophy, let them play, get the big stuff.
When you were in the beginning of replays, of course, what was the general consensus of the referees? Man, we're going to be proven wrong on this. What was the mindset of the referees with replays? It's just it all of a sudden you got that magic eye on you that don't miss too much.
It's about 50-50 the first year of replay. Some of the older officials that have been in the league a long time didn't care for it. Those of us younger in the league, we were okay with it. And the question was, how are you going to see everything? How are you going to know? Well, back then there was like 3 cameras or 4 at the most in a ball game. Now they're going to have 35 cameras in the Super Bowl. So everything can be seen. So I think it has grown on officials because more times than not, 90% of the time it proves the official was correct.
Do you think there's times when a referee will think it's borderline, he throws the flag anyway, and just so because he knows he's going to be challenged on the play?
You hope you don't have too many of those around. I think you can't, as a coordinator of officials, can't deny that that's in some officials' mind, but I don't think they're moving to the NFL. I don't think NFL officials take that approach.
Do you still enjoy the game? Can you watch it after all the years that you were so technically involved in the game? Can you sit back and just watch it now as a fan?
I officiate every game I watch.
That's great.
Does your wife and family get a little upset with you now, Jerry? You're not out there now today. Now, calm down a little bit.
Yeah. She'll ask me, when you going to the next camp? Because I still scout officials for some college conferences. I scout officials, look at the ones that are ready to work Power 5, those that are ready for the other Division I schools, and others that I want to look at down the road in a few years. I've already been to 2 camps and scheduled to go to 10 more before football season.
What's the one piece of advice you would give young officials when you talk to them?
Advice I give them, here's the things to look for. First, are you fit? If you're 20 pounds, 30 pounds overweight, I don't look at you. Are you in position? Do you own that position? Are you mechanically sound in where you are in your movement? Do you know the rules? There's no excuse for not knowing the rules and knowing them thoroughly. And so look at as much video as you can so that you can establish what your judgment level should be, whether it's a pass play, a run play, a fumble, a block. Is it a block in the back or is it a block on the side? How do you tell the difference when the blocker approaches from the side? Which hand controls that defender? Does he go down on his nose or does he go down on his side? He goes down on his side, it's a side block. Goes down on his nose, the force came from the back. And those are the kind of things in trying to help young officials prepare. So know the rules, be fit, be in the right place, and don't look for calls, but make them when they're there.
Okay, biggest question that we're going to ask: who wins the Super Bowl?
Who wins the Super Bowl?
Yes, sir.
The Stripes. The Stripes.
What's your favorite team?
The Stripes.
Good. That's a great answer. Mr. Austin, thank you.
You're calling it right down the middle there.
That's right. Mr. Austin, thank you so much for coming on. Jerry and I, we wrestled for so many years, and Jerry's a Hall of Famer, and in about every Hall of Fame you can be in, from amateur wrestling to pro wrestling, and we're huge football fans. So this is a huge treat for us. So thank you so much.
Well, you only got one problem.
What's that?
Murdoch.
That's right.
Let's talk about it. You helped Bill create that Beyond All Borders charity, right? Or you're actively involved in that charity with Bill, right?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. Folks, Bill Murdoch, Asheville, North Carolina. He's the king of charity and all of North Carolina and all of the United States. What a wonderful man. Some of the golf tournaments he puts on, Jerry, I'm sure you're involved in those, and I'd like to get Bill's going to get John there one of these days for one of those golf tournaments. So I'm sure you guys will run into each other. But what other charities are you involved in? I know with me and John, Headlock on Hunger. We feed school children during the year, all year long, and it's a wonderful deal that Bill helped us get started there. And a lot of the local Eblin, Mr. Eblin there. Has helped us throughout the years with it when he was still around with it.
Yeah, but Joe Eblin charities, over the 25 years, I guess, I was able to get Super Bowl tickets and then sell them. The league allows you to sell them for a 301 charity. And so I did over 25 years, and now I'm helping Bill and Brad with Beyond Borders. And those are my main charities I actually get out and do footwork for.
Yeah. Bill tells me every year. He told me when Carolina, you graciously were able to round him up over 25 tickets. He said they sold like hotcakes. He probably could have sold another 25 tickets there. I know. Do you ever know Bill Maxwell with the NFL?
Don't think so.
Bill helped me out obtaining Super Bowl tickets when they were in Tampa here several times. But he was a wonderful guy. But yeah, Mr. Murdoch and Joe Eblin, what a legacy they've left behind there. And everybody speaks so highly of them. And so I'd like to get John up for that golf tournament. It does a lot of good there. So we really appreciate your time today. I know you probably had a lot of requests with the big game coming up this weekend. We're not going to get a prediction out of you, are we?
No, I don't think so. I wouldn't know how to predict.
You wouldn't know how to predict.
No.
Well, Jerry, we appreciate your time, and thanks so much for being on board with us.
Hey, thanks for the invitation, guys.